the king of the temple's tomb. Don't let him rise and make a fool of you. Let your soul feel whole and refuse to let him in. Let your light shine bright and learn to see again.
This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. This is the Stick Blade Podcast with your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings, as well as Chicago Blackhawks news, as well as the news around the NHL. I'm your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott, and we're joined by my co-host, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. Everybody, welcome to our show. Like I said, we're a place for all things Wings, all things Hawks, and then stuff around the NHL as well. On tonight's show, in terms of the Wings, we're going to be talking about the fact that they finally came back down to earth. They finally ended up falling off of that crazy hot start that they had, but they still look decent. We'll talk about that a little bit this week. A couple milestones for players like JT Compher hitting his 200th point this year. Joe Verlander's an absolute heater, proving why he deserves to be here and why he continues to make this roster better. Also, they handed Boston their first loss of the season. That's a fun one for them. It's been a while since they've been able to really hold their own against the Bruins. And then also the fact that Detroit seemed to be winning through their depth. This is a team that we talked about in the offseason. Doesn't really have a ton of flashy superstars, but they're winning through depth, and depth is what's keeping them in this race. We're going to talk about that. And also, it's kind of fun, but they're the second in their division now behind who? The Boston Bruins. And it's kind of fun that 10 games into this, Detroit is still that high in the standings.
We are.
I'm happy to be covering the Wings this week, even though we didn't have, a good last really good last three games overall. I mean, Tim and Nick, you guys have a little bit different story in Chicago. What do you guys have for us tonight?
Yeah, on the Hawks side of the bench tonight, we've got a couple of stories to talk about. One is the other Black Ace listed in the Jenner and Block report. You'll remember a few years back, has filed suit against the Blackhawks organization against Brad Aldrich and their role in the Brad Aldrich scandals. So we'll touch on that. And then some prospect updates sort of across the various leagues. And Nick, then just thoughts on the team, impressions on the team so far, correct?
Yeah, you nailed it on the head, Tim. That's what we got ahead. And then obviously, we'll get to the flash forward for our weeks for both the Hawks and the Red Wings. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it back over to Jordan.
All right, so we'll start this one on a happy note. It's not happy for the Wings that they finally came back to earth, but it is interesting to see that the Wings have came back to earth, and they still look like a very solid hockey club. I think a lot of people are going to look at this past week for the Wings, and this kind of ties into the flashback stuff. So it's kind of like a spoiler for that, but the Wings ended up losing a game to Winnipeg in Detroit. They lost to the Bruins in Boston, and then they won by 1 goal last night in Detroit against that same Bruins club. Say what you will about this team, but the fact that this team is able to hang with competitors every single night, and even when they do lose, a lot of the time it's fluky stuff like the Winnipeg game, where by all measurable statistics, the Wings should have beat Winnipeg pretty handedly. Connor Hellebuck decided, I'm going to put a Vezina level performance on tonight.
That was the game where Reimer it hit his glove and he tried to catch it and it fell behind him.
Yeah,
So that's hockey.
Flute goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
But all things considered, man, even though the Wings aren't hot like they were to start the season, it's really nice to see that they can still hang with literally every single club in the NHL at this point. And they can beat the teams that look like they're rebuilding, or at least by all measure, they should be beating the teams that are rebuilding.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough after that hot start we had. I mean, yeah, we lost our opening game of the season, but then we just went on a streak, and Larkin and DeBrincat were just feeding each other back and forth. So it was exciting, but yeah, we needed to get knocked back down to earth. We're not, the best team in the league, even though it looked like we could have been for a minute there. but I think we're still a playoff caliber team. We can hang with the big guys. We just handed, like you said, Jordan, in the beginning, Boston, their first regulation loss of the season. They didn't take it very well, which we'll talk about. But like all of our players have been doing really well. The guys we wanted to step up, like Raymond, after a not so great second year, has already started out very hot. Guys like Joey V, who we're going to talk about, new additions like Comfer, Ghost Despair. Hole has been really great. Cop has looked good, even though he's not a new addition, but he had a slow start last year after the surgery. So, like, all the lines are contributing, and it's good to really see that because when you want to be a playoff team, you need that depth contributing, and the Wings are starting to look like they finally have some of that depth showing up.
I think that's what's really cool about this whole comeback down to earth moment that you guys are having is your comeback down to earth is so different than when the Hawks beat the Penguins or Toronto or Vegas and then they come back down to earth. Like we're reminded, no, you're still a bottom team that had a good night. Your comeback down to earth is more just you're not going to win every game. You know, you'll go on heaters and streaks and whatnot, but it's cool to see even on the days you don't win, you're still seeing 4 forward lines rolling. You're still seeing the defense and the goaltending holding up strong. It's so unique this year. I'm glad you brought up Cop. Not maybe he's not a new addition, but he feels like one this year.
Mm-hmm.
It really feels like him and Comfer and like that unit now, it's gelling in such a way that it feels like a brand new team. It's been really interesting to see, even on the nights where you face a little more adversity. It's a different adversity than you've had the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I think really stands out to me the most with the Wings is when you look at them against the other, I think, really high caliber teams of the NHL, right? Like people like to bring up the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example, but when you look at the Maple Leafs, that team is ridiculously top heavy. And I can't remember where I was reading it at, but I don't think that anybody outside of their top 6 lines even has a goal so far this season within like the past like 4 or 5 games or something. Like, it's crazy how the NHL has basically 2 kinds of teams. They have the super top heavy teams, and then they just have the balanced teams.
You also have the San Jose Sharks.
That, yeah.
Well, they don't have shit. I'm coming out swinging.
But I do think it's kind of interesting seeing how the league seems to be changing in this regard. I do think that the league used to very much be a superstars win you games.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you can really do that anymore with how good players are getting, how the salary cap and teams are really starting to manage it more, and how much analytics are helping teams find players in the rough.
I mean, Edmonton has 2 superstars and they've won 2 games. So those 2 superstars have gotten them 2 games.
I was just going to say I would rather have the Detroit Red Wings, and this kills me to say because I would rather have nothing to do with the Detroit Red Wings, but I would rather have the Detroit Red Wings team this year over having McDavid and Draisaitl. And I know that's asinine to say, but realistically, I would rather have a team that any given night a line is going to produce for you than just hope that in the 25 to 30 minutes you overload your top 2 forwards that they're going to outscore your opponent. Detroit is looking more like that Carolina that's just consistent and stable. That is, I think, what we're moving to is that ensemble style play.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, to carry on of the Detroit depth, I think that's kind of flashing back to last year. We were excited by a few. There's a few big signings when it comes to Detroit, but again, it was missing, star power because you guys had depth pieces last year.
Oh, yeah.
You absolutely had the depth, but when you add a superstar like Alex DeBrincat, I will say, it just makes that depth even more incredible because then you have guys that could fill all throughout the lineup. Then you add JT Compher on there. He's an upgrade from what's the center's name? Former Hawk. Last.
It's Pia Suter.
Yeah, Suter. Yes.
Brandon Perlini. Oh,
Yeah, no.
sorry.
I mean, it's a whirlwind of a difference. We were excited about the Wings last year, but like you guys said, kind of wrapping it or not wrapping it up, but to go back to the point where it's like coming down to earth is, losing a few games here and there for Detroit. With adding like a guy like DeBrincat and how deep their lineup is, it's going to be fun to see them compete night in, night out because, like we mentioned, the Oilers, there are these star power, couple forwards that they rely on to carry them, but Detroit is going to be competing with these, playoff teams each and every night, and there hasn't been an absolutely terrible night out of them that we were used to seeing like over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that I think this is kind of like a good transition into like the talks of like JT Compher and Joe Veleno, but we bring up depth, and I think that is a really good point. Like, obviously, Joe Veleno has 5 goals right now on the season. JT Compher just got his 200th point, which that's a career milestone for him, but he still looked really good. Him and Andrew Copp, I think, are both up like 4 goals apiece or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This Detroit team doesn't rely just on Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond to generate points and offense for them. You have guys on all 4 lines contributing, and you have guys on all 3 defensive pairs who can contribute offensive production. That's something that a lot of teams don't have right now.
I mean, yeah, all of our defensemen contribute. Like Gostisbehere, Seider, Wallman are like our top 3 scoring defensemen, but then, Justin Holl is just as good in there too.
And I just want to, again, I know I made that comment about rather having the Red Wings than McDavid and Draisaitl, but to my point, Larkin and DeBrincat as your star power stars on this team are able to thrive and take over a game and do what they do best because teams can't just load up and dedicate their entire top, defensive units, their top, toughest lineups. They can't line up against them the whole time because they have to spread it out. If they shut down that top line, other people will pick up the slack. And so with that balance, your stars are able to really shine and take over that game. They're not burning out.
And I mean, we've seen a completely, like, not saying he's been bad, but a completely different Dylan Larkin this year. And I forget, it was either Nick or Tim that said, like, with you said that, like, DeBrincat was going to really open him up, and we were actually going to see him being a 1C.
I truly believed that there was a whole other level to Larkin that we'd never gotten to see, and we're seeing it this year. I mean, he's near the top of the league in points.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the thing with Detroit, though. Is like, obviously, do you want the star power players? Yeah, of course you don't.
Yeah,
Who
I've been
doesn't
going
want
crazy
Connor
over
McDavid?
Bedard. Like, of course I do.
But at the end of the day, those players, the NHL is showing us more and more those players can't carry you to cups. At some point, you have to have the support players to play with them. And I think Detroit kind of has found those support players for a guy like Dylan Larkin and a guy like Alex DeBrincat, who, those are great players, but those guys can't play, like you guys said, 30 minutes a night and score 4 goals every night. Other players have to contribute, and the other players have been contributing.
And speaking of players contributing, we have Joe Veleno, who, had you told
David's
me,
boyfriend.
Yes. Had you told me when we drafted Philip Zadina and Joe Veleno in the same round that Joe Veleno is going to be the guy who's actually contributing and on this team still, I'd have called you crazy. But look where we are.
Yeah, holy cow.
He's certified third-line center for a guy who was basically a second-round draft pick. Like, what was he, pick 30 or something like that? Basically a second-rounder?
Yeah. 30 or 31.
Yeah, right at the tail end there.
I think he was projected to be like 10 to 15.
Yeah, before his injuries. I think he benefits kind of, not to talk about the Hawks, but like he kind of benefits in like the Lucas Reichel role where kind of the attention is off him now.
Mm-hmm.
With all the additions the Wings have made, obviously everybody's talking about DeBrincat, Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider. Veleno's just kind of there in a good way. Like he's contributing. He doesn't have all these expectations pushed on him now because there's a superstar there to help carry. Lucas Raymond, obviously, we've seen what he could do and what he could amount to. And then just, all around great talent throughout the Red Wings lineup. He is going to be picked up, where he needs to be, and we've even seen instances where he could, provide on his own too.
It's like he has 5 goals on the season so far, I think.
Yeah, he's got 5 goals so
Fantastic.
far. Which, yeah, like he's been like streaky, but still doesn't matter. He's still been solid 2-way player on the games he doesn't score points.
If you've got like 11 games in the season and your third line center's got 5 goals, I'd say that's pretty darn good supplemental score. Like, and this is a guy that every year I obnoxiously ask you, David, like, is there room for Joe Veleno? Is this where they get rid of? Yeah, he has shown he took the opportunity. He finally has like shown, whether it's development or whether it's just mentally he's in the right spot, but like he's here. That's really exciting to see.
We need to get Max back on so I can gush more about Joe Veleno to him, because that was every topic I brought up. I was like, hey, Joe Veleno.
He's gonna get back. Oh my God, you're the Veleno guy.
It got worse than that. You were like a high school girl talking about. There was like one picture of Joe Veleno where he looked super jacked. I think you talked about that for like.
You were in your Veleno era for a while, buddy.
Hey, the hater's gonna hate. I'm just gonna.
No, shake it off, brother. No. Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Listen, I was on Alex Nylander for the longest time until I finally gave up.
Yeah, we all did that.
Joe Veleno's at least coming around.
The last thing I want to talk about, and it's kind of going to be part of the flashback segment, I guess, but man, the Red Wings handed the Boston Bruins their first loss last night in regulation at home in LCA, and that was such a statement game by them. They went down 2 goals really quick into the game, and when something like that happens, there's a real tendency to start cheating for offense, and then you get burned because you cheated for offense, and it just compounds the problem. Detroit just took a second, took a breath, calmed down, and slowly clawed their way back into this game against a team that up until this point, I think up until, what was it, a couple of days ago, they had the best, arguably defensive playing structure in the NHL. Yeah, you can say what you want about Boston missing some of their defensemen because of suspensions, but the structures didn't change for those guys. And the fact that, again, Detroit beat the only team ahead of them in their division standings, that's huge for them. They're a team that hasn't been able to really do that for the past almost 5 years.
And we scored 3 goals in a few minutes?
Something like that. They clawed back real quick, though.
Because when we were down 2-0, I was about to write, like, okay, yeah, Boston is still a far better team. And then we tied it up. I'm like, all right, we're making it a game. And then they scored, and I was like, well, all right. And I was doing something, and I checked my phone. I'm like, wait, we're winning? So then I had to go to data, because of course my internet's not working. So I'm watching the rest of the game on my phone and watching Brad Marchand be Brad Marchand, which we'll talk about.
But I just want it on record. The last episode we did of this, I predicted that Detroit was going to hand Boston their first loss. It wasn't exactly the one I thought it was going to be, but
that's true. You thought it was going to be the one when we were on our hot streak.
Hey, better late than never, right?
And then they punched us in the mouth.
Yeah.
While Jordan was there.
Yeah,
that was rough.
You were in the middle of enemy territory. That was a scary one for you. But that was a blast, though.
It was a blast. I would definitely make the trip back anytime.
So which original 6 arenas do you still need to go to, Jordan?
I still need to go to Toronto, Montreal, and New York. I'm thinking of making the trip up to Montreal and Toronto at the end of this season, actually, in April, because they play 4 days apart. So me and my brother are like, you know what, man? Let's just do it. Let's just take the trip.
So what I'm hearing is the Stickblade boys go on a little north of the border road trip, go up Montreal, Toronto, come back down the New York side.
My wife and I do want to go to Montreal and Quebec. And I want to find me a nice Quebec Nordique shirt while I'm there. So
I'm a sucker for some poutine, so I'm in.
But I think that's everything I have to cover for the Wings, unless you have anything else, David.
No, I could go on and on for another 20 minutes about Joe Veleno, but I won't.
I do have a quick question. How's Rasmussen looked recently? He's someone he's
good.
Okay, cool. Is he sort of being a fixture in the top 6 like I was hoping, or is he on the third line now?
He's Unfortunately for him, he's basically like being forced to play middle 6 minutes, more third line than second line. Just they've got Kopp and Confer
They've
playing
loaded
together,
up. Yeah,
and
okay.
Perron unfortunately is too good for the third line out of an NHL club still. So
I'm so curious because his contract is up after this season, right?
yeah, he'll be up
Yes.
after this
I'm
season.
very curious what they do with Perron if they let him go and organically bring people up or what, because I love Perron, but you're right, he's
He's old.
not third pair and he's not third line and he's sort of blocking some
He has
people.
Michael Rasmussen's spot until his
Exactly, that's
contract's
exactly
up.
it. I'm pulling for Rasmussen, so I was curious. Thanks for the update.
We can move on to the Hawks in just a moment, but first we got to talk about one of our sponsors for tonight, and that's DraftKings Sportsbook. Obviously, the NHL season's going strong, and DraftKings is hooking new customers up on an offer that's even better. You can bet $5 on any game this week, score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And it's not just that. They're offering all customers to take advantage of a sweetener every game this October. So, like, for example, the Wings are going to be playing, I think it's New York this week. You can bet on the New York game. The Hawks, you guys, I'm trying to remember who you guys play after the game versus Florida tonight.
After the game versus New Jersey tonight, we're playing the Tampa
New
Bay
Jersey, sorry.
Lightning on Thursday, and then
So,
Florida
like,
Panthers on Sunday. So you're close to Florida.
I was close to Florida. But
We played them last night.
You did play. Yeah, okay. So I was going to say, I knew you guys played them like either last night or coming up like within the next 2 days.
Our next 3 games are Florida, and the one back was Florida. So if you want to put a bet on Florida, that's probably a safe bet.
Say this is not gambling advice, FYI.
Oh God! Again, anything I say is the farthest from advice you could get.
No.
But no, seriously, if gambling on sports is your fancy, check out DraftKings Sportsbook. They have bets on all sorts of stuff, and like I said, they've got cool promos going on right now. You can get it on the Game Day Greatness by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. New customers, again, you can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet 5, especially on the NFL. Again, that's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, which is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling by calling 888-789-7777 or visiting ccpg.org. Please pay responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resorts, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 or older of age, area, and by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restriction terms and responsible gaming resources. So, boys, let's move on to the Hawks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not as happy as the Wings, unfortunately.
I think we'll just get it. And Dick, I don't know about you. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and
Yeah.
talk about the heavy one first. I mean, I think the most important thing to talk about, we are a Hawks side, our Hawks side of the podcast. We can't not talk about it. During the Jenner and Block investigation with the Brad Aldrich scandal that involved sexual assault, grooming, a lot of issues there, obviously. The other black ace that was named, where Kyle Beach came forward, there was an additional black ace that had been groomed, assaulted, threatened. He has now filed a lawsuit against the Blackhawks organization. Something, people are a little confused on, the internet. This isn't necessarily a new case that has come forward. This was a case that was known, but that person had not filed a lawsuit, so there was nothing to settle or address yet. This person is finally, from everything that I've been reading since it came out, they have reached the point where they are comfortable and at that point where they can come forward and say, I'd like to actually press charges and face this. And like, that's huge. And it's a good reminder that as excited we are about the future and what we're building with our organization, that we can't forget the past and we can't forget the darkness that's there and sort of the darkness that permeates under a lot of the culture of this sport that we love so much. And it's important that as we get excited for the future, we don't forget and that we build that future better than it was and with more hope. I don't know, Nick. I'm just sort of rambling now.
No, yeah. I mean, you made great points, Tim. I mean, it is part of who we were, and obviously, there's going to be fans that on NHL fans are going to troll. We've
Oh
seen
yeah.
the jokes like, Ottawa tampered with something, or Ottawa made a bad trade, and they lose draft picks. Hawks have this scandal, and they get Bedard. And no, I mean, it's we recognize what this organization was, and obviously, I think with the new ownership, or not new ownership, but with
As much as yeah.
yeah, with the takeover and the change in the organization, we're not trying to move past it. We're trying to acknowledge it and do better. Obviously, we're not going to go into great detail like we did, even with all due respect to John Doe. Right now, we've talked about what Kyle Beach went through, and it's going to be very similar stuff that John Doe is currently going through. And it sucks. It sucks that this is kind of a looming black cloud over the organization. But all we can do is try to be better for the future and accept our mishaps and mistakes, and just hopefully this John Doe gets what it like. It gets clearance and comes together with their life after all this is settled again. And we can move on to better things and work on bettering ourselves as an organization.
Yeah, and I do believe 2 points on my end before we, I'll turn it over to our Detroit friends for some discussion if there is any. But I am really happy about where Danny Wirtz and Jamie Faulkner have been taking the organization. I feel like they've been saying and doing a lot of the right things since they took control, and even more so now that Danny is the owner of the Blackhawks. There's definitely an acknowledgement from this new regime not to sweep things under the bus and to not just try and do the business as usual, to learn and grow from it. And how do we do better, not just as an organization, but for our players, for the people, for the community they represent. There is an awareness there. And so I am optimistic about that. And the only other point I have is I see the comments about bringing up Bedard, oh, great, the Hawks are a new lawsuit and they're going to be awarded another first round, another pick. Like, the jokes aren't acceptable. They're not what you think they are. It takes away from the victims, and I don't know. I just have a lot of issues with. I understand where they're coming from, and I get it, but like, keep it focused on the victim and what we can do to grow and focus. I don't know that there's no need to, because the jokes just backfire and end up. People see that. I don't know.
Listen,
it bothers me.
No, we understand as fans, like those memories that we had growing up. It's it's tarnished a bit. It's tarnished.
It'll
quite a bit.
always be. Yep.
And we accept that, and just kind of to wrap up this subject, so we could go on to happier conversation, what we are all about. Again, I think collectively as a whole, we as a podcast are just hoping everybody sees the ramifications, and justice will be served, and we hope we're support for this John Doe, and again, to a better organization we are in the future, and we recognize who we were in the past.
Jordan, David, any thoughts on this at all? Obviously, no pressure too.
Yeah, I mean, you always support the victims in this, and like what you said with the jokes, like the jokes are just hurting the victims. You're not hurting the team. Yeah, you can be pissed off that the Blackhawks got Bedard. Cool, be mad about it. But when you make jokes about like that, it doesn't hurt the team. It hurts the victims. Like, you don't care about what they went through. And I hope that with John Doe, they get the resolution they want, and they can move on with their life and hopefully have a better future than what was hurting them in the past and then the present. But yeah, I mean, it's a shitty situation. And just to reiterate again, like, making jokes about it is not something you should be doing, people. Like, you're just making yourself look bad and you're hurting the victim.
I think the thing is, and I think it's actually really interesting, like you can move forward without moving on, so to speak. And that's kind of what I feel like the Hawks are doing. Like when I say move forward, I don't mean like you can look back at, like mishaps or mistakes and stuff like that, and you can evaluate them, make changes for the future, and then not forget that you made those mistakes without also realizing, hey, we're also making changes in the future because of those mistakes.
Yeah.
It's not mutually exclusive. Like if you're going to move forward, you don't have to forget the things that happened in the past. You use them as like learning steps, right? Like, as much as the people around the league don't want to admit it, it's like this happening with the Blackhawks organization, this is going to put a lot tighter restrictions on professional conduct around the NHL. I feel like
it already has. We've already seen more accountability and more eyes and ears perk up around not just this league, but all over the hockey world.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
I mean,
sorry, Jordan.
It's all right. It's just, it's one of those things where, as much as this is a terrible situation and it's terrible that something like this happened to a player, just because something terrible happened doesn't mean there can't also be good outcomes for other people. Like I said, like new safety measures being put in place. Like you said, other sports are taking note because of things like this. Just because something bad happened doesn't mean it has to be only bad results. Like, it sucks that this obviously happened to the Hawks, and you wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it is good that, the Hawks are stepping forward, and other organizations, if this happens in the future, you're going to be able to say, well, the Hawks handled it this way. You guys had an example to learn from, and you didn't. I feel like with the way that the Hawks are handling this, and it's being handled in general, it's giving less leeway for stuff like this in the future. And I think that is a good takeaway, even though the situation at hand is a terrible one.
We can't change the past, but we can be called to account and we can move forward addressing it for the future.
That's a good way to put it. I said it a lot longer.
No.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I can recap, because you said it. Yeah.
To recap with like Jordan, like what you said in the beginning, it reminds me of a quote my dad told me with like, I've had issues with family members, and he says, you can forgive, but you don't have to forget. And so like, we can forgive the transgressions and learn from them and move on, but you don't have to forget. Like, it's going to be a tarnish on the Blackhawks like legacy.
You don't even have to forgive.
Yeah, you don't have to forgive.
I mean, that's what they don't tell you, is you can also not forgive while still letting go of some of the, like, and still move forward. There's still a way to healthfully move forward without ever having to forget. It's a fascinating, like, holding all those different emotions. We don't have to forgive
the people that did all those things, but like the Blackhawks organization as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
I still feel comfortable being a Blackhawks fan, even after all this. I don't know if I would be if John McDonough and a lot of the old regime were still there and like nothing had changed.
Yeah. If there'd be no corrective measures.
Yeah, exactly. Like, somebody has to be called to account. And where we're at now, I will hold everything in the past while also being able to move forward, because I see what they're doing and I feel good about where we're going.
Yes.
That's what I meant by that.
Yeah.
Man, we're working through this in real time. Like,
no, you're 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But I think, to change things in brighter pastures, obviously we mentioned future, a lot of the future, and the future's bright also on the ice. We hope to be better as an organization as a whole off ice, but the future on the ice is also bright too. Tim, why don't you take us away with some of these prospects?
I mean, we've got a slew of different prospects to talk about. There's a couple that we've got individual talk about, but like right off the bat, I screenshotted a Twitter post from the Chicago prospects, Wally Mazarek's profile. He does killer work, by the way. If you don't follow him, he's not related to the Stick Blade podcast at all. He's just somebody that I follow that gathers all this prospect information. He's fantastic. We'd love to have him on the pod someday. But as of yesterday, These are the following Chicago prospects that are a point per game at least in their respective leagues: Martin Misiak, Jiri Felkman, Gavin Hayes, Paul Ludwinski, Frank Nazer, Oliver Moore, and Cole Gutman. With the exception of Cole Gutman, who was a free agent, unsigned college free agent that we were able to sign, everyone else was a draft pick. Like, that's a big deal, especially with Nazer, who was
That's
off
really
to a
good
bit of a
drafting.
slow start this, like, him, Moore, Ludwinski, Gavin Hayes, especially Martin Misiak. Like, some of these names are guys that you're hoping end up in the top 6 for the Hawks. Like, that's thrilling to see that they're a point per game right now.
Yeah, and that's not even mentioning, obviously, Landon Slaggert cooled off too with Notre Dame, but he was on a tear. I think he opened the first 6 games of the year with a goal. So, I mean, it's just things are kind of shaping together. It's, obviously things aren't great. We'll get to the team on the ice right now in a little bit. But, it's good to see the farm kind of working its way together. And it's, whether it be offense, defense, goalies, it's
The dogs are barking. Let out the dogs
all
some more.
excited.
We're ready,
They're all
Chicago.
excited.
he's excited too. Yeah.
No, Nick, Drew Cameso in Rockford. He's off to a 3-1-0 start to his season in Rockford. He's got 1 shutout. He's got a .936 save percentage, and he's got 1.76 goals against. Like, that is huge because Cameso came from college. This is his first season really in Rockford in professional hockey. What a dream. Like, that's super exciting for a goalie to adjust at this level. Like, listen, I know the AHL is not the NHL, but it's also college isn't the AHL. Like, those are the levels here.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then just with the way the game has changed too, in general, a lot of players now in today's NHL, and obviously in the future, as we've seen, they're coming from the NCAA. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It used to be just Canadian Hockey League, obviously overseas, not much representation from the NCAA, but it is a changed game, and I mean, I'm excited for Cameso too. I with Soderblom's look good, and you see Cameso in the future one down the line,
And Adam Gajan.
Yeah, Gajan has also been great too. I mean, there's the one prospect I do want to touch on, just
Please.
not touch on, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Ludwinski, I think we hinted at it in the past. I think he's going to be brought up a lot more this year. On this show specifically, just with DeBrincat kind of being on the side of Detroit now, and Ludwinski being the second round pick, the player we used to draft that second round pick. It's
God, so we got Korchinski and Ludwinski. First off, that's great. I love that, how that sounds. But dang, both those players for DeBrincat. That's a good deal.
Yeah, and I think he won OHL Player of the Week for week 1. So
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to follow him along again with DeBrincat being on the side of the wings now, Korchinski up in the end. So it's exciting to follow him along.
And Ludwinski, he had some injuries last year that sort of slowed and derailed his season. So, like, seeing him healthy this year, like, he's clearly been a force. Like, he's a guy that I think we both typically gravitate towards that style of play a little bit more. Like, he's not just a goal scorer. He mixes it up a little bit. But talking about Korchinski, I mean, him and Bedard crossed their 9-game thresholds. Their entry-level contracts have kicked in. They're burning the year of their contract. Yeah. That's a huge deal. I mean, it's not surprising. Like, they both look like they belong, obviously, but it's still a big deal to note.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think Korchinski was the one kind of at question at the beginning of this season.
Yeah,
you see the first 4 games. Obviously, Bedard was staying.
I mean, yeah, we always do that.
Yeah,
like, Korchinski was up in the air.
Yeah, Korchinski was, and then 3 games in, you're like, all right, this guy is NHL ready. Obviously he's going to have some mishaps here and there.
Welcome to the NHL. It's
kind
of different,
right? Exactly.
As a 19-year-old defenseman too, you usually don't see these guys until they're 2021. But he has played the part. We'll get into the one iconic play I think from the past week a little later in the flash forward.
And we're sort of blurring into our thoughts on the team I feel like
that's why I didn't want to go too much into detail there.
And I think that's where I'm at with this. Like going into with Korchinski and our thoughts on the team, it's hard not to talk about our thoughts on the team and then talk about the rookies separately, just because that is a lot of my thoughts on the team. Korchinski, and then again, I know he was injured, and he's back in tonight. Alex Vlasic, man, has looked like a true, like, he's going to be a beast of a shutdown defenseman in this league.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, between, Korchinski, Vlasic, Kaiser, I know
Wyatt Kaiser has
yes.
looked, he was a slow start to the season, but he has really found his footing and has again, lesser minutes than Korchinski and Vlasic have been exposed to, but like he's found his footing and he's looking really, really stable as a fixture.
Yeah, so I mean, between the prospects, obviously, that we see with our squad, obviously with the Hawks, and then in the organization, things are just. I mean, I'm excited. This is as excited as it's been for a long time. I think I keep saying that every week.
There's a future.
Yeah, there's a plan.
Well, Nick, that's exactly it. There's a future and there's a plan that doesn't change every year.
Yeah,
we are on a path now, and
Rebuild's
that is
over.
No,
but Wings, you get it.
Sorry.
Like
Yeah.
you know what it's like to have a path.
Trust the
David's. I'm trusting Kyle from Chicago.
It doesn't come off the tongue like the Iser plan, but we get it.
He's thought of everything, even the branding.
Branding.
I don't know, we've got to come up with something fun for like the Davidson rebuild, though.
Absolutely. Give me a day. I'll have a list.
I'll get a text at like 1 a.m. I've got it.
Yeah.
From a quote from the great movie 12 Angry Men. Let's run up the flagpole and see who salutes it.
I love it. But yeah, that's prospect updates. I'm excited. I'm going to be seeing Rockford soon when they come play the Wolves. So I'll have a scouting report for Phillips and Del Mastro and Allen.
To the Wolves or something?
What?
Do you have season tickets to the Wolves?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a full season because that is quite the commitment. But no, yeah, I go to like 12 games a year.
How far do you live from the Wolves?
30 minutes, roughly.
Okay.
As a beautiful parking's easy. Like, listen, it's got like $2 beer nights. You can't beat it, man. Go check out a Wolves game. Support your local hockey team.
Oh my God, that made me think of the Griffins do like the $1 beer nights. Did you see the Griffins lost the game because of stupid fans?
They responded so well. Like, listen, I know this wasn't on the topic, and it will take like 5 seconds, but like shout out the Grand Rapids Griffins because their like team and like PR handled that situation so well, and they like identified everybody that was a part of it, and they're like, how embarrassing that we had a really good opportunity to like come back in that game and some idiot fans ruined that momentum for us. We got a penalty. Yep. They scored on the penalty. Like, how could you do that if you love this team? Like, I was like, oh my God, this is worse than just like getting in. Like, this is terrible.
We're disappointed and mad.
Yeah. And also you're banned. Just support your local hockey team. Cause man, I know it's easy to get caught up in the NHL, but like there is nothing better than if it's an AHL game, an ECHL game. If you're in the Southern Hockey League with the Florida Everblades and stuff like that, like
the freaking Savannah Ghost Pirates,
rock it out and support it.
If you guys are all right, we're going to move on to the next segment of the show.
Before
we do that, we're going to have to talk about our other sponsor for tonight's show, and that would be Raycon. If you haven't heard of Raycon, they make excellent earphones. I mean, obviously the holidays are approaching. They make a cool gift for somebody, and if you're anything like me, you're probably going to overeat on the holidays, and come New Year's, you're going to need to go hit the gym and shed all the Christmas cookies and the cider and the eggnog and all the other stuff
the salami, everything you have at Christmas. You know, I know.
The alcohol.
Alcohol, all of that. I mean, I'm probably going to end up being on the treadmill a lot at the gym after the Christmas season's over. So what better gift to get somebody than a bunch of Raycon earbuds? That way, when they get on the treadmill, they can just put whatever podcast, music, or the show through their earbuds and just have, a nice bit of time to themselves and work off, all the extra weight that we always put on during the Christmas season. Right now, obviously, Raycon's got a bunch of great earbuds on the market. I mean, if you look, they have, I think their official term for it is perfect in-ear fit ones so they don't fall out of your ears. They have I think it's a 32-hour battery life on them. Raycon makes good earbuds. These are not the generic cheapo ones that you find for like $5. These are good quality earbuds. And the thing is, right now, Raycon's offering a discount right now to our listeners. So you can hurry now and can buy Raycon. If you go to raycon.com/THPN, you can get 20 to 50% off site wide.
Ooh.
It's a pretty
That's
good
not bad.
discount. Again,
Not bad.
that's by raycon.com/THPN. You can score up to 50% off Raycon products. By raycon.com/THPN. I mean, Nick, you can vouch for it. Like,
Yeah.
they make good stuff.
No, I mean I'm gonna go off script here. Raycon is absolutely unreal. My mom got me them as a Christmas gift a few years back, and I still wear them to this day. You know, when I'm mowing the yard, obviously, shoveling season's coming up. So I'll be shoveling the driveway with my Raycons
Yep.
on, listening to my favorite podcast, Stick Blade Podcast. So yeah, I mean, buy Raycon. They are absolutely unreal. I know I will be supplying my family with Raycons using THPN promo code because it's a great gift. Everybody needs headphones. Everybody listens to podcasts. Everybody listens to music. So why not treat yourself to some comfortable fitting earbuds with Raycon?
Yeah. So we can move on to the next part of the show. Obviously we've just got a little bit. I guess it's league news to talk about. For anybody who hasn't heard, obviously there was a really bad accident these past couple weeks with ex Pittsburgh Penguins player Adam Johnson. Basically, if you haven't seen the clip, it's on YouTube. There's this really weird collision where the guy who he hits flings his skate up in the air, catches him right across the neck. Blood starts shooting everywhere. So if you're squeamish, just FYI, viewer discretion advised.
I wouldn't.
I
I
don't
recommend not watching it.
No, don't watch the clip. Don't share the clip. Yeah, I mean, it's just. Sorry to cut you off, Jordan. It's just such a sad
Freak accident.
incident. Yeah, I mean, it's a freak accident.
100%.
All the conspiracy theorists,
Awful.
stop again. The jokes or the assumptions. It sucks.
I didn't even realize there was conspiracy theorists and jokes
It's
about it.
bad. Don't pursue it. I couldn't not see it, unfortunately, and it's just unfortunate. But yeah, honestly, Jordan, you brought up something earlier about how from tragedy there can be hope for the future. And something I found very interesting is I know the league hasn't mandated net guards, but between this unfortunate situation, this horrible situation, and then last year with Evander Kane catching a skate in the wrist, we're seeing more players wearing the neck and wrist guards. Like, I know TJ Oshie and Eric Carlson are probably the two biggest players that have been seen in the show wearing the neck guards. Wyatt Kaiser was the first Blackhawk to wear it because he actually skated with the player in the offseason. You said Wallstrom, right? Or
Jake Wallman.
Hey, Wallman.
Yeah. So frankly, I remember seeing something with Wayne Gretzky recently where he was talking about the neck guards and saying it's going to be like visors, where all of a sudden you're going to see it as new players, people will be grandfathered in, but like moving forward, it's going to be mandatory at some point. And frankly, I think the neck guards look cool. It's like wearing a turtleneck with your jersey sweater. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just it's sad. I mean, life's so fragile. Playing a game he loved, obviously. I mean, former NHL player, but he's young, 28, I think he was.
Yeah.
Not making millions upon millions of dollars, but seeing that kind of unfold and just tragedy. It's just sad. And obviously our thoughts and prayers are with his teammates, family,
Absolutely,
the organization, and I along with any former members he used to play with. So such a fragile and sad, tragic situation.
That is something that it's actually league-wide news. It's something that it's going to, I think, affect all clubs moving forward. I think
We're going to see a lot
something-
more players wearing those next
Yeah,
year.
you're gonna
This
see
is
more-
just the beginning. It's rocked the hockey world across all levels. And frankly, at the speed this game is played now, like collisions are that much. And just with, again, knowing that there is a protection that people can
Mhm.
wear that's not going to limit mobility or anything like that, like we're going to
Yeah.
see it.
And I have friends that don't watch hockey who know I do this podcast, and they text me like you know about what happened with Adam Johnson. I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
it's freaking terrible. And seeing that it's not just it's being seen outside of hockey, like it's big, and it's hopefully going to change things and make more mandatory precautions for skaters because they have literal blades on the bottom of their feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's obviously not like it's not obviously news we want to talk about, but it is something that I think is going to impact the league and at least the player safety department moving forward. I
You
think
can't not
I'd
talk
be.
about it. Yeah, exactly.
I think moving forward, it's going to be a thing where the league is probably going to start enforcing it. It's something I think you're going to see moving forward. And I've seen some people saying, well, they shouldn't be forced to wear them. I mean,
They're forced to wear the helmets now, like the whole like helmet on the ice. That's a requirement.
yeah,
like even mandatory
I'm
concussion protocol where you no longer leave it's out of the player's control now because the player's gonna want to be on the ice. Like,
I'm
you can
sorry.
safety. I mean, it's a seatbelt.
If I was an NHL player, my nickname would be Bubble Wrap because I'm like, oh, you have a new protection gear? I'm wearing it. Like I would wear every gear
I'd be
before
wearing
we
a full
even talk
cape.
about it. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
but no, I thought that was worth noting because it is something like around the hockey world that has really caught mainstream news and is kind of a big deal.
Absolutely.
Huge.
We can move on to the flashback, flash forward segments of this show, and I feel like they're going to be a little bit quicker than normal. The Wings, we started the show saying they came back to earth these past 2 weeks. It was really weird. They obviously, I think the last time we recorded, they had just finished the game with Calgary where they had the 6-2, like just decimation of the Flames. That's the only way to put it.
Yeah,
But
good times.
They had an overtime loss to the Kraken. They had the Connor Hellebuck standing on his head loss to Winnipeg.
As he's wont to do. Yeah.
You've got the Florida Panthers again, just grade A goaltending performance from Sergei Bobrovsky. Unfortunately, Florida got realistically the one goal of that game. The other one was a gimme goal. You have the game in Boston that they lost 4-1, which was more like a 2-1 game because of the fact that one of Boston's goals was an empty netter. The other one was a penalty shot goal.
Yeah.
They had the 4-3 win over the Islanders, which we said it. They look good against all of the clubs that should be rebuilding, which the Islanders should be for all intents and purposes. And then they won versus the Bruins last night, 5-4. Really dug their heels in against a cup contender. All things considered, though, I'm really happy with these past 2 weeks for the Wings. They haven't had a game where you looked at them and go, man, this team really deserved to lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, it sucked watching us lose, a few games in a row. It sucks losing, but having it be like a few games in a row is like, oh God, it's just the punches keep coming. But they weren't like haymaker punches like we saw with the COVID season where we were just the worst team on the face of the earth. It was just like, man, we could have won this game. Reimer had a really bad glove save that fell out and went in, and then Hellebuck played on his head. Bobrovsky played on his head. Like Boston was Boston in that first matchup. But digging our heels in and taking out the Islanders, who we should be beating, and then having 3 goals back to back to back in a matter of minutes against Boston, and really, in my opinion, outplaying them 2/3 of that game, was just really good to see. And we talked about at the beginning, Boston, we handed them their first regulation loss and they did not take it with grace, which was also fun to see, the ejections here and there at the end of the game.
Love to see it.
Marchand just being Marchand. I've never liked him.
The Rat King.
But yeah, I mean, we're in a good place. We're second in the Atlantic the last time I checked.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, which is good place to be because there's other great teams in our division. To be second above a Toronto, above a Florida,
Above Tampa.
above a Tampa is just like, wow, that's great. Who would have thought?
I mean, Tim, Nick, what was the week for you guys?
Woo!
Boy, you took the words right out of my mouth with that one.
All right.
Almost lost
Take
a
it
lot
away,
of
brother.
The 24th of October, we lost to Boston. Then we beat Vegas for their first loss of the season, 4-3 in overtime.
overtime.
The whole reason my expression came out, this was the game.
Yeah.
The Arizona State Coyotes putting a whomping on us after we come out and score. 30
28 seconds in.
We lose 8-1 there. Yeah. And then we lost then we beat Florida and we lost tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So we won against Florida that 5-2 game, and Nick,
Yes.
talk about like the 8-1 loss against the Coyotes. This is, I feel like last year we would have been like, that's unfortunate. Like, oh well, such is life. This year, like, this definitely feels like a team that hates to lose. Nick Foligno afterwards talking about it, saying, I'm glad we have 5 days in between the games. We're going to sit with this one. We're going to remember it. Like, there are no easy games in this league. And they came back and they beat Florida. Like, that's sick.
No, that's the attitude this team needs because, like you just said, last year you'd be like, whatever.
Yeah.
I was pissed. I was pissed after that one. I was pissed.
Oh, me too. And I was like, we can't be doing that.
Yeah, like Bedard comes out, Korchinski feeds Bedard 28 seconds in, and you're just like, holy shit.
If you turn the game off after that, it's a great day.
Rebuild over.
No, yeah, right?
Yeah.
And then we get memed to death on Twitter over that game. Do you know like the whole
wretched.
Family Guy clip where Peter's walking up the stands, he turns around, goal, turns around, goal, turns around, goal.
I haven't seen that one. I gotta find
It's
that
stupid.
one.
Don't look at it.
I'll find it for you.
It's not funny at all.
But now that I got my exaggeration out of the way a little bit, it was nice to beat a team like Florida and beat Vegas for the first time. That they suffered a loss. I was, tonight was kind of a bummer. They came out very dry again.
Yeah.
I mean, this is who we are, though. I hope. I think we. On most nights, obviously they were very upset, which I love about the Coyotes game. They wanted to let it sit with them. We're gonna go we're gonna go out and battle. Besides that Coyotes game, we're gonna go out and battle. We're gonna fight.
I mean, even losing to the Devils tonight 4-2, like it's a 2-goal game against one of the best teams in the East. Like,
yeah, no, exactly. I want to just go in there. I'm not asking to go win.
We're still a bottom.
Lose. I want to lose 3-2, 3-1. I obviously if we win, I'm happy. But if I
know
lose,
who we
I
are.
lose 3-1, 3-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not the Sharks.
Which God. We are on Shark Watch of when is the San Jose Shark team going to win their first game? I don't know.
Are they going to get double-digit points this year is the question.
I hope not. That would be fun.
Hey, they could take Detroit's crown for worst season ever.
Yeah, I mean, but as for your player of the week, Tim, I guess we'll go to the player of the week conversation.
Are we doing player of the week?
Yeah, we'll do player of the week real quick.
Jordan, David, we started with the Wings. Do you guys, fill us in?
Go ahead, Jordan. I'm thinking.
I got to go with Andrew Kopp, man. Like, the guy has been A+ effort. He's had, I think it was 2 goals this week. And I don't know. It really does seem like he has bounced back in such a meaningful way for this organization this year. To put it into perspective, he had 8 goals last season. He's already got 4 this season, and we're 10 games in. Like,
holy cow.
He's looked a lot better. That, and I like his attitude. Like, he doesn't make excuses for when the Wings lose. Like, if you watch media availabilities with him, he just says it straight. He's like, yeah, he's like, we got completely outworked tonight, which is unacceptable. He's like, we're better than this.
I love that.
I mean, David,
Yeah.
who do you got?
I'm gonna have to piggyback on that because, like, yeah, Copp's been great, and I was watching. I think it was the Boston game last night where he was really like fighting for the team and arguing with the ref. Like, he got a really bogus tripping call called against him
Yeah, the blue
where
line.
he was trying to stop to stay on side, and like he just isn't afraid to argue a point, and he's not afraid to say when the team's not playing to their expectations. And I'm trying to remember, I'm drawing a blank. He wears an A. He's one of our assistants this year, isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he deserves that. Like, that's what you want. You want someone that's like that, wearing that letter on their chest. And people were crapping on him last year, like, "Oh, Copp's not great. I can't believe we spent so much on him." But people forget he had a core surgery, which is
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a really hard injury to heal from. And at the end of the season, we started to see, like, yeah, he started to come alive a bit. And I was excited. I think I mentioned on our pre-show, I'm like, I'm excited to see him. Like, he wasn't my big player to watch, but he was one of my honorable mentions because I'm like, Copp's going to, surprise those people this year. Like, they're going to be quiet because Copp is going to actually come out and be healthy to start the year. And he's shown it so far. I'm excited.
Tim and Nick, who are you guys' players for the week?
My player of the week is Pete Mrazek. Talk about a guy I don't think I've ever had as my player of the week ever.
Has he ever been anyone's player of the week?
Well, that's the question, right?
No, we said Patrick Kane for like 30 straight episodes on our side. So,
I mean, he was in goal when we beat the Panthers, when we beat the Golden Knights. That Boston game that we lost, he had 40 saves. Like, he has been really good this year. Nick, am I crazy? Like, he's been really good.
No, I mean, that's been one of the few bright spots in this for this team this year is the goaltending. I mean, between them both,
because Soderblom's been great, but like Pete Mrazek has been stealing games for us. I've never seen it.
Yeah, he's built up that trade value. He wants to get the hell out of town.
Exactly. He's like, I promise you, I can still do this. Like, please get me out of here. I watched the Arizona thing. I gotta go. Yeah. What about you, Nick?
I'm gonna go with a recency bias. Philip Kershaw. I thought yesterday he had a stellar game.
Excellent choice.
Last night he had a stellar game, and then the game-winning goal against Vegas. I think Kershaw is, he's kind of one of those guys that we've been having our eye on this year. But then especially this year, like this should be the year he takes that next step. Bigger role. He's going to be getting some power play time, and lately he's been taking advantage of it. He looked phenomenal last night. His best game of the season by far. And then Vegas, bearing that game-winning goal was huge. Obviously, jumping for excitement, causing us fans, to beat Vegas. So, Philip Kershaw's going to be my player of the week.
Yeah,
love it.
I just want to jump in real quick, Tim. Yes, that is the first ever mention of Peter Mrazek being player of the week because he was not on our team when the show was born.
Then
so we never could have mentioned him. And I feel like also we need to keep a list tally of players of the week.
Like I said, Patrick Kane was like 30.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can just assume it was Patrick Kane last year.
There were shows when Nick missed. We're like, it's Patrick Kane. Like he's gonna say Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane.
Well, yeah, I mean it was a pennant. Like you just put it down.
The occasional honorary tase, and maybe we moved on.
No, there's a few off reads.
It's like you set your favorites for auto select in a game, and someone picks your other favorites, so like it just shows up Patrick Kane.
Dude, we could have missed that segment, and you could have just auto recorded our reasoning, and it would have been like,
it would have been a copy and paste every week
because he's a stud.
Quick, we need a running list.
I know we are wrapping up the show.
Yeah,
but I do have one last thing I want to talk about. I didn't tell you guys this before show. It's obviously I was away from hockey for the last week and a half or a week plus. For those that didn't listen to last week's episode, I got married. I went on my honeymoon. Here's the proof. I'm not lying. Hey. She's real. She doesn't live in Canada. I didn't meet her at summer camp. But But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I was away from hockey. Obviously, I wanted to still stay in the loop. I was on my honeymoon. The new NHL app design really grinds my gears because it absolutely sucks. It sucks. It is not.
I don't
It
have
is
the
not.
app, so I don't know.
It is not user friendly. It is not navigationable. It's just a poorly designed app, and I want the old one back. Like I can't go. I don't know how to find a schedule to like look up past scores and click. Like I have to scroll through like the manual schedule or where I have to like this. That.
So what you're saying is I have to download the app.
Don't.
I'm gonna do it.
It sucks.
You're not my dad.
No, Nick, thank you for telling us how you feel. I am, that's frustrating.
That's how I've been keeping up with news, and it takes me 45 minutes like I'm a 95-year-old man getting my iPhone for the first time, and I don't know how to follow the news.
I'm confused and I don't know what to do.
It's such a terrible app now. I'm mad.
Thanks a lot, Batman.
Sorry.
I'll blame Batman for that one.
I had to get that out.
It would at least be bearable, though. Like, we've talked about the blackout stuff before. I would at least put up a terrible UI if I could watch all of the games non-blackout.
That's exactly, yeah. I can do one or the other. I can't have both.
Don't get me started with blackouts. That also.
One of the games in the last 2 weeks, I couldn't watch for the Wings.
Oh, that's the other one. Yeah, the Bally Sports app was just not working.
Well, no, because I
can't watch your games.
Oh, it's
I have Hulu, ESPN Plus, and like I could watch any other hockey game that night except for it was the Wings Islanders game. I couldn't watch the Wings Islanders game, and I'm like,
probably because it was too local for you guys.
No, I can watch like Wings Flyers when they play or whenever, but there wasn't even like a thing. I could watch a replay of it a week later because it says like, oh, you can watch this game. Week later replay. I'm like, I don't want to watch a replay. I want to watch it now.
Yeah. Don't use the new NHL app is what I'm saying until they fix it. Complain. I don't know. File to HR somewhere. I don't know. It
Make
sucks.
Apple reviews. Get a review on the Apple.
Yeah. This is why I don't do trips. This is why I'm a homebody because I want to get my news like a real man and do nothing with my life and watch TV all day. Because the app sucks.
The dream.
All right. Nick's gone. Let's change the app.
You're talking about keeping up with the news, Nick. We can use that, I guess, to do our flash forward segment because we're going to have news for the next week based on the flash.
Yeah, you had that cooking. You're like, I don't care about the flash forward. I got to get this off my chest.
I wanted to complain about it week one, but I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a chance.
I can't flash forward until I say this.
All right, Jordan, flashes forward.
All right, so the Wings are going to have 3 games this week. They play against the Rangers on Tuesday, they play against the Canadians on Thursday, and then they play against the Blue Jackets on Saturday. Conventional wisdom, if you're looking at the schedule, I would assume that the New York Rangers will beat the Wings. Just they didn't lose any major pieces during this offseason, and they still look like the Rangers. The Montreal Canadiens are a rebuilding club still, and I think the Wings are going to look just as good as they did last year against them. And then the Blue Jackets, again, a club that Detroit pretty handedly beat already earlier this season. I would think that they're going to win 2 out of these games, probably the rebuilder ones. I could see them maybe squeaking by the Rangers, maybe, if they get, I've been saying this, depth production throughout the lineup. David, you copy the same traffic?
That's a 10-4 for me. I feel like we're in the same boat. I'd love to beat the Rangers. I have a student who's a huge Rangers fan. I don't want that, heat the next day after if we lose to the Rangers. So I'd like to be able to beat them, but I think we take 2 of the 3 this week at hopeful least.
Tim and Nick, though, what do you guys have cooking for the Hawks this week? Because you guys have games.
2. We got 2 games this week. We've got Thursday, it's Blackhawks against the Lightning, and then Sunday, it's Blackhawks against Panthers. So a little Florida road trip. I think we beat the Lightning, and I think the Panthers come back and they beat us as a revenge game.
Oh, you know, Chuck's gonna be wanting to hit somebody.
Oh, he's gonna be squirrely. I get it.
Yeah, thanks
You know-
for telling me, Tim, because I was trying to use this app to find our schedule.
Oh no, I just Google it because I can't use that app. It's garbage.
No, yeah, I'm
I
gonna
use
go
Yahoo Sports like a real old man.
That's what I'm on.
an Excel spreadsheet. I type it in when it first comes out in the newspaper. I think it's gonna be 2 losses though. I think we had our monumental win against Florida. I think they do come back and beat us. A nice noon start though. I like
I
that.
love that.
1 p.m. for you Eastern folks, but a nice noon start. Have some lunch, watch the Hawks.
See,
Did
Yeah,
he
he froze.
freeze or is
he
he?
froze. I think he was. I thought he was contemplating, but he froze.
I thought he was just deep in thought. That's hilarious. Well,
a nice lunch. Go to country.
No,
country buffet.
I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, my Wi-Fi cut out because I guess Bettman heard me right.
yeah,
from
the
app.
NHL app cut him out.
Caught him.
You know,
No, it was my joke's ruined.
That's 2
We
losses
made
is
jokes
what I
of it.
heard.
It's okay.
You know, in all seriousness, though, like you brought up, like beating the Lightning, Tim. They don't look as good as they have in years prior.
They're tired.
Yeah.
They're like us when we just kept making the playoffs and making the playoffs.
That's
except
a
they
lot
kept
of
getting
hockey
to the
they've
cup
played.
final. They went to 3 straight cup finals. Like they're tired. They're old. Punch them when they're down.
Yes.
Except
How many
Hagel. He's on
times
my
do I have to
fantasy team.
tell you, old man?
Huh?
No, I think we can beat the Lightning. I don't think it's a gimme game, but like I think that we can do it.
So, I agree. I don't think it'll be a gimme game for you guys.
No,
I think
God, no.
if the Hawks are going to win that game, they're going to have to dig their heels in and really try to play like the true trap game on them.
Yeah,
I think that's how the Hawks are going to have to win.
Be real nice for Brandon Hagel to get a hat trick against his former
I'd
team.
be so sad. I'd be so happy for him.
Wait. Is it too late to change?
Yeah, no, it's never too late.
All right, I'm gonna say we're gonna beat the Lightning. I just got to alert the Hawks held a team meeting after tonight's loss. Hawks beat the Lightning.
Oh, Hawks are 100%. They're gonna ride that
What
team
if-
meeting momentum.
They're being the
Team
Lightning.
meeting was to
They're being
get
the Lightning.
pizza.
Fuck, dude, I'd do better. Oh,
There goes that family friendly.
Well,
We'll be kicked off in a week.
sorry, Facebook. This
We
one's
get
getting
one.
removed.
We get one.
it's like
All
a
right, I'm just gonna
PG-13
shut up
movie.
then.
I get one.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
get one. Yeah, I got one.
I do better when pizza's involved too. All right, anyways.
But we're starting to go down a rabbit
Nick, get
trail,
us-
so I'm going to close this
Jordan,
out,
take
boys.
us home.
So that's going to be it for our show tonight. There's nothing else for us to talk about as far as I'm aware. If you liked what you heard or you listened to, feel free to give us a like, follow, share, whatever the social media currency is on the platform you found us. It really does help the show grow. And also feel free to check out the other podcasts on the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as our sponsors. I mean, if you are a fan of even not the Red Wings or the Blackhawks, like let's say you follow the Seattle Kraken or the New Jersey Devils or one of those other teams around the league, I'm pretty sure just about every team has a podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. So feel free to give them some love as well and check out the other offerings that they have. But with all that being said, for your host tonight, Jordan Linscott, from my co-hosts David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato, this has been another edition of the Stick Play Podcast. We will catch you guys back all here next time. In the meantime, stay safe, take care of each other, take care of yourselves. We will catch you guys back all here later. Have a good evening.
Go Wings.
Go Hawks.